Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs, call number 1 of June. Good to be here with you. History of the Golden Mastermind Podcast used to be called the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call that had literally hundreds and sometimes 1,000 people on the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call on Tuesday nights. I go back on my memories of the good old days. I started my speaking career in 1998, Aarons and John McFadden, you're the first two here. And I had databases in a company called Travel Dynamics. I was their mindset coach. I was a mindset coach for a company called The Tax People. I was 41 years old when I started Golden Mastermind Seminars back in the day, 1998. And I immediately had a waiting list for my coaching. I've had a consistent waiting list for coaching for the entire length of my career. But this Facebook Live was originally a live conference call where I interviewed Jim Rohn twice, Mark Victor Hansen multiple times, a top-tier network marketer named Susan Sly multiple times, the highly successful author Judith Orloff, John Assaraf, who was in the movie The Secret, and he wrote the book The Answer, along with The Street Kid's Guide to Having It All, Pat Mesiti, #1 inspirational speaker in Australia. Stephen, let me think of his name. He was the director of the movie What Dreams May Come. He wrote the book. He wrote a best-selling book. He also produced the movie Body of Evidence with Madonna. Multiple movies that Stephen Simon produced. So he was on my call. So this is the culmination of my 26-year career. This call at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. For years, it was the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call. So I've consistently hosted a live Facebook and a call on Tuesday. So you're part of that history. Some of you may go back that far to when I had the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call. Jared Andres joined me. His brother definitely used to listen to me on the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call. Jared's brother used to follow me back in 2006, 7, and 8 when I was the mindset coach for the largest real estate educational platform in the history of real estate, a company called Nouveau Riche. So thank you for being here this afternoon. Tracy, Paige, Jared, Michelle, John, and I saw Aaron. So thank you for being here. Very applicable call today, letting go of control. And so I'll break that down for you today, what control is and what letting go of control looks and feels like, so that you're in a relaxed release state, letting go of control. So many people confuse control and they try to be in control. So they're saying, I'm in control. Well, actually, by being in control, you're actually out of control. The objective is to let go of control and be in a relaxed body so you have command of your emotions, so you can adapt and adjust to the situation at hand, as I said, in a relaxed body, so that you are breathing, releasing, and letting go, and you can adapt and adjust easily, and that way you're not in fight or flight. So fight or flight is what leads to road rage. It's what leads to conflict. It leads to procrastination, avoidance, because fight or flight is the body's way of taking you right into an emotion based on anxiety, fear, and especially doubt. And doubt is the lower self, that is the self that is not good enough, that then procrastinates, avoids, and gets ready to get ready. And then what the lower self does, it stays in control. So you're actually controlling those emotions of anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride. And so the ego will stay in control of those emotions. That is how and why people become chronic procrastinators, chronic avoiders. This is how they stay. This is the reason that many people stay in these feelings of control. And what they end up avoiding is they're avoiding change, They're avoiding significance. They're avoiding responsibility. And most importantly, they are avoiding succeeding. And when in a business that requires sales, branding, and marketing skills, that's what many people will do, is they will avoid their own success by getting ready to get ready, and they control that. They're in control of that. And so letting go of control is the end of the era. It's the death of the ego. In this brilliant book right here, The Map of Consciousness Explained, the only person who covers the payoff like I do is Dr. David Hawkins, and he covers it right here, Transcending the Barriers to Higher Consciousness. And he calls that the experiencer. I call it the payoff. He also represents the payoff. On July 20th, 2024, July 19th and 20th, I'm hosting an event called Millionaire Blueprint. And that event is in Stockton, California. And that event is for my coaching clients who volunteer to come to the event. They pay the fee for the event. And on Saturday at that event, I will be covering live the payoff. Bob Campbell is on today's Facebook Live. He has seen me cover it. Michelle Nestler has seen me cover it. And Jared Andra has seen me cover it on 4 different occasions. And I tell my audience that if you can receive this content and you can leave grasping what the payoff means, what is your payoff? What is the payoff that you derive? What is the payoff that you receive? What is the payoff that you get by being addicted to a set of emotions? What's the payoff you get by staying an under-earner and underachiever? The payoff always breaks down to the key component of avoiding responsibility. What's the payoff you get by holding on to the 50 pounds? What's the payoff you get by being $100,000 in liability debt? Well, the payoff is anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, disappointment. And then the mouth moves and the ego says, well, that's not a payoff. And I will go, it is. The payoff. If there was no payoff, you wouldn't recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. And many of my clients will say, I've heard you say that 1,000 times. And then occasionally someone will say, I grasp it now. The 1,001th time was that time that I now understand that the pleasure is not worth the pain. As long as the pleasure is worth the pain, you will stay in the payoff. For those of you who are recovering alcoholics and then eventually became sober, we used to drink ourselves into blackouts. We used to drink ourselves into DUIs. We used to get public intoxications, fist fights, bizarre behaviors. That would be me. For 14 years, I lived in that payoff. And near the end of that payoff, I would promise myself I'm not going to drink. I would have the dry heaves. I would be on the floor. Eventually, I started having delirium tremens. And still, I would go back to my mistress, to my seductress, alcohol. Vodka was my drink of choice. And the payoff was I was able to continue to avoid life. I couldn't have a relationship. I was about to get fired. I was at rock bottom, but I continued to do it until the pain was great enough. Many people say to me, well, I can't leave this relationship because I'm not sure if I can make it on my own. I'm not sure if I can leave this job. I have bills to pay. Well, I hate my job. I hate my spouse. I'm married to a narcissist. This is what people will say to me. And I will say, well, what's your payoff? Why don't you leave? Well, I can't. I can't walk away from my job. I can't walk away from, I don't want to break up this household, or I don't want to leave my employer hanging, or I have bills to pay. This is how an addict talks. An addict always has an excuse, and they use the term, yeah, but. And an addict always, usually, frequently says the terms, I guess, and kinda, because that non-clarity keeps the brain fog flowing. It keeps that person in an overwhelmed state of doubt. And this is what so many people do to fulfill their payoff, to control the outcome, is they recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. The breakthrough factor is when you let go of control and realize through rigorous honesty and acceptance that you are actually receiving a payoff by recreating the same situation over and over, and you are actually in control of that payoff. And when you let go of control, it can be very liberating. But the ego, lower self, is afraid, see, that's the doubt, to let go of what is familiar, what is routine, what I'm accustomed to, what I've always done. So what the ego is really saying is, who would I be if I were not a noble struggler? Who would I be if I weren't barely getting by? Who would I be if I weren't just tiptoeing quietly through life on my way to my grave safely so I can die the greatest pain, the pain of regret? And this is why many people will hold on to a property that they're overwhelmed in, a property that they won't sell, they won't let go of. What certain people do is they recreate the same situation to fulfill the same feeling that fulfills the neurochemical craving that keeps them doing the same thing over and over. Your dialogue with money, and if your dialogue with money is not conducive to the creation of it, then you will recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. And then opportunity avails itself. Opportunity knocks. An exceptional person shows up. A business opportunity is presented to you. And your ego will hold on to loyalty. Your ego will hold on to a family. Your ego will hold on to familiar. And you go, no, I can't receive this opportunity because I'm loyal to this narcissist. I'm loyal to this company. I'm loyal to these people. I'm addicted to these emotions and I can't let go of these payoff because these loyalists that are narcissists might not like me, or whatever the story is. So when you're holding on to a story, you are holding on to the control of that story. Now, I wrote a post earlier this morning. Bonnie, good to see you here this afternoon. I saw you say hello here. So I wrote a really short post today, and here's what it says. It says, be aware that the story you're holding on to that keeps you overwhelmed is not a real story and is a story that you invented to justify your addictions and your disappointments. Let go of your story, the payoff, breathe, release, and letting go. Letting go is letting go of control. It's the separation of the feelings in the events that shape them. It's virtually letting go of a story. You might be jealous of someone in your family. You might be jealous of your ex or whatever, and you're holding on to that story. And when you hold on to that story owns you. And then if you hold on to this story, I don't know. I used to have a really good business. I used to be really good at business, and I don't know why I'm right here. Well, you do, because you're the one who's perpetuating it. And that's what it is, a story. Access your highest power. Access your brilliance. Be very clear on who you seek to attract. Be exceptionally clear on what you are committing to create. Let go of your story, because your story is what keeps you recreating the same situation to fulfill that story. And so I remember some of my family members would say to me, grow up, get real, and stop chasing rainbows. When are you going to get a real job? I mean, I had to borrow I chose to borrow $5,000 from one of my relatives, and that relative gave me the $10,000 lecture. And that lecture was, you got to grow up. You got to get real. You have to come off your high horse. For those of you who are not from a country folk like me, a high horse, horses are measured in hands. And so if you're sitting on a high horse, like a 16 or 17 foot horse, it means you're looking down on people. What's interesting was the person I was asking for the loan was looking down on me, telling me to come off my high horse when he was sitting on his, judging me, stealing my dreams because he did not want me to exceed his low self-esteem, his dreams. And I borrowed the $5,000. I paid that relative back in exactly 6 months and 1 day. I didn't gloat over it. I didn't feel any victory. I felt relief because at that time when I borrowed the $5,000, I was $100,000 in credit card debt. And I did go to that person and they did loan it to me, but I always refer to that as the $10,000 lecture. So do not let these people keep you in their story. When you're holding on to someone else's story, then it becomes your story, and that story will keep you not feeling good enough. And these are called the dream stealers, the emotional vampires, the spiritual vampires, who attempt to rob you of your brilliance or of your dream. And if you listen to these people, or you feel guilty, or you don't want to leave the nest, or you have that trauma bond, or you're neurochemically addicted to being in that narcissistic relationship, then you will hold on to that story, perpetuating their story. Their story becomes your story, and now you're trauma bonded to this neurochemical link, and this is what many people do. How many of you have a parent who is threatened by your success, a brother or a sister who is threatened by your success, or people in your circle of influence who are envious or jealous of you? I long since let those people go. I have very, very clear boundaries. I live thousands of miles away from where I grew up. I have no attachment to any stories of anyone else's. I am completely focused on living the good life in peace on my terms and my time frame, not wanting to show anyone up or to succeed to prove someone wrong. You're succeeding to live the good life, not to do it to show anyone up. And besides that, they don't even care anyway, because they'll just make up a new story. That's why it's important that you have clear boundaries, let people go, let go of control, let go of trying to control an outcome that hasn't happened, let go of worry, anxiety, fear, and doubt, and live in the solution and focus on living that good life on your terms and your time frame, and not letting other people who are narcissistic, who are violators and traumatizers, people who put you in a position to validate, justify, and explain yourself, that you're through your own discernment, your ability through intuition to be able to spot these people, let them go diplomatically, not be in any conflict, and create life on your terms and your time frame, attracting to your reality quality success seekers, men and women who believe what you believe and who are looking for what you have to offer. And as you become skilled at this, you'll let go of feeling gaslighted. So if you keep saying that, oh, I got gaslighted by this person, actually, the person more than likely wasn't interested, and you've turned that into a story. There aren't any good men out there. Well, that's a story. I went on one of those dating sites, and all there are these people. That's a story. So your story will trauma bond you to your past and keep you recreating the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. So when you get attached to people, you're going to control your disappointment. So when you're prospecting, when you're looking for talent, when you're recruiting people to join your culture, your team, or you're looking for an employee, like right now, I am seeking the ideal candidate to be my next millionaire apprentice. I'm not attached to who it is. I have no attachment. I'm looking for the ideal candidate who I can mentor to be my ideal assistant. And I don't know where it's going to come from, but I am committed to attracting to my reality the ideal candidate. And if it takes me one interview or 1,000, the ideal candidate will show up. What happens is we are trauma bonded to our story. And that story becomes the story that most people live out. And money is a major component of that story. Many people have challenges with money, yet money doesn't have challenges with them. And if you have a lot of debt, you have to look at this and understand, is this liability debt? Is it asset debt? And as you have a better understanding of that, what's your story with money? I teach my clients to have a healthy dialogue with money. And the affirmation is my dialogue with money is improving. I am now living in the flow, in prospero, in prosperity, in a relaxed body, attracting to my reality, quality, like-minded success seekers. And when you get attached to people, you'll start telling a story about them. Oh, this person's going to be really good. They're going to join my team. Oh, this person's going to be I met this really good guy, this really good woman. And then so this happens in dating also. This becomes a story. When you let go of control, you can see the situation for what it is. You can see the character defects that you overlook. Many people get attached and they overlook character defects. And then they hire this person, onboard this person, take this person on as a client or a customer, not really realizing that this is not the ideal situation. And this is why you learn to be in a non-attached emotional state in high consciousness. where you are not attached to the outcome. When you are not attached to the outcome, you're not trying to control the outcome. When you let go of control, you live in a very relaxed, high conscious state called non-attachment. Non-attachment is not detachment. Detachment is anger. This is when you use unfavorable terms and say things because, oh, I'm never talking to that person again, versus I'm going to let that person go. I have no attachment to that person. It's a completely different energy and keeps the options open for people to find you. When you hold on to pride, that becomes a story. And that story of pride becomes control because you control the outcome. And that's what many people do to stay in control because they're so controlling, they want to control the outcome. And when you're able to look at the situation for what it is and you're not trying to control the outcome, you are letting go. And you are separating your feelings from the events that shape them so that you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feeling. If you're on my Facebook Live today and you've not accessed a free 20-minute coaching call, feel free to reach out to me. I would be honored to connect with you. I will be back here later tonight at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is 9 p.m. Pacific. Breathe, release, and let go. Let go of control and let go of your story.